Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where, well, there's a bit of a story behind this puzzle on the screen, to be honest. I was actually due to start this video about an hour ago. I'd sat down, I prepared my list, my birthday list. What? Why has Alexa started up? That's so strange. Anyway, I was about to start the video. And I looked at the puzzle that I was scheduled to do, which is this one, Twilight Cave Fillomino by Agent. And I read through the rules, and I was like, what? I don't understand at all. At all. And I was actually worried enough about the rules that I dropped an email to one of the testers who'd recommended this, and I said, are we sure about doing this puzzle? And the tester wrote back and she said, well, actually, yeah, you need to do this because it is so brilliant. And the rules are apparently fine once you get your head around them. So I'm now going to do this. And I hope that's okay. I did snip, where did I snipped an example from Logic Masters Germany, and I think that will probably help me. But I mean, what I will say as a general point, especially on Saturdays at the moment, where we're doing, we've got this series of puzzles where we're doing pencil puzzles on Saturdays rather than Sudoku puzzles. And I know for many of you, it's a real highlight of the week, and you like this excursion, and I enjoy this excursion as well. But if you are aware of any really great world-class pencil puzzles that have simplish rules, there would be a very good chance of that appearing on the channel at the moment, because we've had so many puzzles recommended to us that are sort of 5 stars out of 5 for difficulty, 100% rated puzzles that look fabulous. They look fabulous, but we are always aware that for new viewers, unless you're deeply in the arcane lore of pencil puzzles, some of these puzzles may just seem immediately off-putting, and we obviously don't want to be off-putting. We want to encourage people to do these puzzles by making them, approachable, at least understandable. Anyway, that's a long introduction. It's got nothing to, well, it's got a bit to do with what we're about to do, but let me move swiftly on and talk about the main news of the day, which is that Fog of War Sudoku is out. This is our brand new app. Let me show you a picture. Yes, here's a picture. So you can see this is an example of a James Sinclair puzzle, candlestick number 2, and we have just got an incredibly amazing series of puzzles by people like Phistomefel, Marty, Sears, James Sinclair, ThePedallingPianist. These are just brilliant puzzles. Sandra&Nala, who I know many of you enjoy the Fog of War Sudoku puzzles that appeared on the channel, by Sandra and the dog Nala. Yes, so it's out on Steam. It's out on Android. We haven't yet heard about Apple. They have it. All they have to do is say, yes, we approve it, which we think they will do. There's no reason for them not to, but they haven't written back to us yet to confirm that, so we haven't been able to release it on Apple. But the moment we do, I will tweet about it. At Cryptic Cracking is the link. So do follow us there for up-to-date news. But already the feedback has been fantastic. So so do check it out. And I've got a couple of birthdays to do as well. Let's do a couple of birthdays. Denise, it's your birthday. Is it Denise or Denis? It could be Denis. I'm not sure whether you pronounce the Z. I think it's a Turkish name. Denise, if I'm not mistaken, you're at university in Turkey at the moment. You watch every day. Thank you for doing that, and many, many happy returns. I hope that your day is filled with puzzles and chocolate cake. And then also, it's a birthday for Justin today. And Justin, I know this because your wife Gail wrote to us, and I think you've been in touch with us before, possibly about your daughter Alexis, if I remember rightly. Alexis Triggles Alexa. Sorry. That's the second time she's interrupted. But Alexis is your 4-year-old daughter, who I know is aware of Cracking the Cryptic, watches the videos sometimes, and yells numbers whenever she hears the theme music, which always tickles me. And I will say, Justin, as well, that Gail's email included an awful lot of positive adjectives about you. Too many to list. I don't want you being big-headed on your birthday. And I think the two of you might be at a wedding today. Well, if so, there's always cake at weddings. I've learnt this over my life. So, Justin, I hope the cake is good. Many happy returns. And that's all the news. So why don't we get on with Twilight Cave Fillomino by Agent, and I will read you the rules of the puzzle. Now, these rules, as I said, they did give me pause for thought, so we're going to have to go through these carefully, and I'm sure that that example will help us. So, in fact, why don't I put the example up while I read the rules, and then we can think about. So there's an example puzzle here and an example solution here. And the rules are as follows. Fillomino. Divide the grid into orthogonally connected regions such that no two regions of the same size share an edge, and enter a number into each cell equal to the size of its region. So that is basic Fillomino rules, and we've done a lot of Fillomino puzzles in this Saturday series. So if we look at the finished grid here, you can see, for example, all of the 4s are all orthogonally connected, which means they share an edge with one another, and there are 4 of them. There are 5 5s in the 5 region, there are 8 8s in the 8 region, etc. So there's always got to be, you basically, if you built a region of size 3, like in the top left corner, you would write 3 into each of the cells. That's how Fillomino works. And you can see that the 2 3 regions in the grid don't touch one another orthogonally. They could touch diagonally, but not, as indeed the 2 regions I can see. There's 2 2 regions. Oh, there's more than 2, but in green there are 2 2 regions. And you can see they do touch, but only diagonally, not orthogonally, and that's fine in Fillomino. Now, there's then a cave rule. We have to shade some cells in the grid such that all unshaded cells are orthogonally connected. So you can see all of the green cells, that's being treated as the unshaded colour. They are all orthogonally connected, aren't they? And all shaded cells are orthogonally connected by other shaded cells to an edge of the grid. Yeah, that's true as well. You can see all of the grey regions get to the edge of the grid. Each region must either be entirely shaded or entirely unshaded. That again, I can see from the example solution, has been achieved here. For example, the 8 region is entirely green, isn't it? The 4 region here is entirely grey. Now, this was the bit that I was struggling with earlier. If a clued cell is unshaded, so if it's green in this solution, the clue indicates the sum of numbers seen orthogonally from that cell. Region borders block vision. Right, so let's try and understand what's going on here. Because when I read the rules cold, I didn't have the example in front of me, and I was really struggling to understand what it meant. But I can now see it seems easier somehow. So the 16 here on the left, that is fulfilled because it only sees 2 8s. It sees 2 8s. The clue is unshaded, and the number of cells it sees orthogonally with region borders blocking views is 16. It sees 2 8 cells. So let's do another one. The 25, that sees 5. Because in the 25 region, because it's unshaded, all of the cells in that region are therefore also unshaded, and all of them happen to be seen by the 25 clue, which looks down and sees. Yeah, okay, so seen here is a sort of Sudoku version of seen, isn't it? Seen orthogonally is just looking in the cardinal directions. Yeah, but I think shaded cells means something different, because this 10 clue in the bottom, this one here, no, that's also seeing 10. I thought that the shaded cells, there's a different definition for what shaded cells mean. Let's go to that. If a clued cell is shaded, yeah, it's different for this 6, definitely. If a clued cell is shaded, the clue indicates the total sum of numbers in its group of orthogonally connected shaded cells, which could include more than one region. Yeah, so the 16 here is counting all of the shaded cells in its group. The 6 here is the one that interests me. That's counting the contents of 3 Fillomino regions, its own region. Yeah, it's sort of, it's all of the shaded, yeah, it's all of the shaded regions in its set, in the lump that's connected to the edge with it. Okay, I sort of do. That's actually very helpful to me to look at that example. I am sort of dimly now starting to understand how this works. Could almost, it's probably, you know, I always wonder sometimes whether we should do the example puzzles and then have a go at the real puzzle. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to just jump in and have a go at the real puzzle. And if this doesn't go anywhere, you'll never see this video. So, anyway, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. As I said, the reason that I was a bit nervous about the rules, but the tester with whom I exchanged emails basically said, this is a fantastic puzzle, so we have to do it. We have to do it. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. So, what I'm going to start with here is something I noticed when I was looking at that 6 clue. I think it's true to say that any shaded groups that we discover in this puzzle, any cells that end up being shaded, have to be expressible as the sum of squared numbers. Now, why do I say that? Well, basically, imagine a Fillomino 3 region that was shaded. We know that once any of these cells is shaded, by the rules they're all shaded. So the sum of the digits in that Fillomino region is 9, 3 times 3, and if this was 4s, we'd have to increase it. It would be 16, wouldn't it? If it was 5s, it would be 25. So in any shaded region that gets to the edge of the puzzle, the rule is if a clued cell is shaded, the clue indicates the total sum of numbers in its group of orthogonally connected shaded cells. And given anything shaded, you know, you could have a 5 group, and then you could have a 3 group, and these could all be shaded to get to the edge. But what you're doing there is you're adding 25 to 9, aren't you? So it's expressible as the sum of squares. Now, the problem with that is that almost any number, in fact maybe every number, can every number be expressed as the sum of squares? Yes, of course, because 1 itself is squared. Okay, so that so this hasn't got me very far. Okay, sorry. Let's go back. What does the other rule mean? If a clued cell is unshaded, The clued cell is unshaded. So let's just make that unshaded. I'll use green for unshaded. The clue indicates the sum of numbers seen orthogonally from that cell, but it only counts. It only counts if region borders block vision, which they do according to this. This only counts cells within its own Fillomino region. Yes, I see. So I'm starting to grasp this now. So what that means is, if you had a Fillomino region that looked like this, that wouldn't work for the specific 15 clue, but let's say it did. Ignore. What we're doing there is we're counting those squares within that region, aren't we? This one is not counted because it's not seen. It's out of vision. It's not in. From this cell, we look that way, until we get to a border of the region. So we never see this one. But what that means is that these are all remember, these are all the same number. Let's just make those x for a moment. Can I do that? X. Oh, no. X. So yeah, so x needs to be needs to divide exactly into 15. Yeah, okay. Okay, so 37 is unxable. Unxable. Whatever that means. 37 is unxable in the sense that it is prime, isn't it? So I can't express that. I can express it as 1 times 37, but I can't put 37 ones in a region. And if I write 37 itself into that cell, that would imply that I need to that there are 37 cells in that region, and however I extend the region to achieve a 37 count, you know, those two would have to equal 37, and this would see it. So this square is grey. That is the first deduction I'm going to allege. Anything prime is grey. 5 is prime. That must be grey. Although that actually, I say that. That now feels wrong. Why is that logic correct? Anything. I feel it is correct, but now 5 feels achievable. Why does 5 feel achievable? If it was green. If it was green. No, it's not achievable. It's not achievable. I am right, I think. If this was green, what number am I putting in that square? Well, what we worked out is that this number has to be divisible by the number. 5 is divisible by the number I put in that square. So I either put in 1, and then I have to see, it's just nonsense, isn't it? Because that's the size of this Fillomino region. So it would be bounded, and the number should be 1. So it's not 1. Or I put in 5, which means this is a part of a 5-cell region. And however that extends, whichever direction it goes, that it would get, you know, once you go there to extend the region to be of size 5, this clue should not be 5. It should be 10 at least. So I am right. Okay, good. So let's find all the prime numbers and make them grey. You see, that's a weird thing as well. Let's just go back to the example. Yeah, look at that. There's no prime numbers, are there? Well, not that I can immediately see anyway. So that little feature was not apparent from the example, but I think it's true. So this 37 has to get to the edge, and the 30. Right, remember the other thing we learned? The 37 is the sum of squares. So
Does that, and it's got to get to the edge. Oh, actually, that's another. I'm having lots of thoughts all of a sudden. So 6 times 6 plus 1 would work for 37. I don't know if you can do it any other way. Or maybe you can. You could do 5 times 5 is 25. You need 12 more. 3 times 3. And then ones. Would that work? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So if you had 1 and then a run of 5s and then a 1 and then 3 3s and then a 1, you might be able to do it that way. 5 has to get to the edge. Well, that's very difficult. That's very difficult indeed. Because what we're saying is that the number of cells that get it to the edge all have to contain a number. So we can't go that, and this is expressible as the sum of squares. So it's a 1 and 2 2s in a separate Fillomino region. That's the only thing it can be. So it must go there, and it's because it's got to get to the edge. So these are all 1s. Oh, I'm on A's and B's. These are all 1s and 2s. Now, what I was going to say, which actually now is interesting, is that this is a cave puzzle. Now, I do know a secret of a cave puzzle. And that is that in a cave puzzle, because each strand of grey that we put into this grid has to get to an edge, you can never have a checkerboard in this puzzle. So imagine that we had this. That cannot exist in this puzzle. Because if it did, once we get this grey to the edge, let's say we just go on, I mean, it doesn't matter what, just to be clear, it doesn't matter if you go on a very circuitous route. Let's do that. The point is you now cannot orthogonally connect the greens, and yet we're required to. This is in a pool of greyness, and you know, that's extremely unpleasant. Agent doesn't want to, well, spray agent's evil twilight gases on us. that just doesn't work. That sounded a bit unpleasant. But no, there cannot be the hiving off of unpleasant gases into this area. That won't work. We have to keep everything open by doing that. Or well, okay, so what this means, because we know this is grey, everything around it has to be green. We can't have anything else connected to grey, either orthogonally or diagonally, because there can't be checkerboards. So now the 15 and the 30, oh, so the 15 and the 35, but won't this, oh no, because region boundary, oh goodness me, this is, okay, I still haven't got this. Because these can see each other. Do they both have to be 5s? Are they in the same region, or do we not know? No, actually they could be in the same region, could they? Because whatever that one sees, if they were in the same region, they would both see these 4 squares, because these would all contain the same number, which looks to me like it would have to be the common multiple of 35 and 5, as 15, which would be 5. But then this is 20 now, so that doesn't work, because it's seeing 4 5s vertically. There's no other number that, yeah, 35 is 5 times 7. So this needs to see, it's either seeing Hang on, what's going on? I'm almost getting this, I think. It's seeing within its region. So it can only look in two directions. So looking south and west, it's seeing some number of cells that must contain 5s or 7s. And if it's seeing 5s, it needs to see 7 cells of 5s. You can't see 7 cells of 5s. And the reason for that is that if this did see 7 cells of 5s, so let's say we fill all of those with 5s, I don't know if that's the right number, but that is connecting. You can't put 7 5s in one region by the rules of Fillomino. There's only 5 5s in one region. So actually, this is seeing 7s, and so it's seeing 5 7s, and in the 7 region, then it's seeing 5 of the 7 7s in a region of size 7, right? And that means I know where the 7s go. They go there. Because they can't bush into the 15, because 7 doesn't divide into 15, and we learned earlier that whatever you put into a green cell has to divide into the clue for that region, which in this case is 15. 15 divided by 7 is not an integer. So this is what we're doing. This is a boundary. Let's go to boundary drawing. I don't want to draw a red boundary. I'll draw a black boundary. So this, let's just hive that off. We don't know what that looks like. Now, does that have to be a 7 as well? Probably. Let me just think about this. So this is... What's this then? So that's this one. Yeah, okay. What I'm now perceiving is 15 is 3 times 5, isn't it? Which means that this is either seeing a string of 5 3s. Well, it's not doing that, because there can only be 3 3s in a 3 region. Or it's seeing 3 5s of the 5 5s that should exist in a 5 region. So in fact what we can now do, what we can now do is we can say for any green number that we identify in the puzzle, we work out the possible ways of multiplying to it, and then you always pick the higher number to go in the region, if you see what I mean, because this can't, when we work out 15 is 3 times 5, we know it can't be made up of the 3s, it must be 5s, because otherwise you get too many of the digit. This is 7 times 5, so it must be the 7s that form the region, otherwise there would be too many 5s in the region. So this one, if it's green, is made up of 7s. And it would need to see 5 7s. It can't. That's grey. Ooh, that is not what I was expecting. So I'm just going to think that through again. If that's green, it's 5 times 7, so it needs to see 5 7s. It sees, at the moment it sees 3. I could give it another one here without breaking this clue, because there can only be 7 7s in a region of size 7. So I would need there to be 8. And there can't be 8, so I don't think that's right. I think this is grey, which means it needs to be expressed as the sum of squares, which means it's not 6 times 6, that would be too big. It's 5 times 5. 5 times 5, 3 times 3, and a 1 would do it. I think. Which is... right, I've got another deduction now. This can't bump into any other clue in this puzzle. Because if this did bump into another clue, let's say it, well, the only number it could bump into would be a 35 number, wouldn't it? Because if a clue cell is shaded, the clue indicates the total sum of numbers in its group of orthogonally connected shaded cells. So any grey, if this bumps into another clue, so if this was, it would have to bump into a 35. That's all that's what the rule is saying. So this is not part of this grey region, and this grey region is massive because it's got at least 5 times 5, 3 times 3 plus 1 is 9 cells. So it's got to get out through there. It's got to get out through there. This has to be green now. Yeah, and this makes sense because now there is just space for the 7 to exist. The 7 must bend around the corner like that. It's the only place it can get its extra digits from. And this one is either 2 times 12. Well, it's not that. Or is it? Or is it? No, no, it's not 2 times 12. Because that would cut off this from getting out. I was about to say it couldn't possibly be 2 times 12 because I just thought it would sounded ridiculous. But actually it's not ridiculous. Absent this, it's not ridiculous at all. Because it could be 12, 12. Then this square is about... So this would be in a different region. Don't know whether it's grey or green. But it would go 12, 12. And then it would have to turn so that this didn't see it. But that locks this in, and we know this is size 9 or something, don't we? So this gets out further. This goes down. This is now... Does that have to go there? Probably does, doesn't it? Because the multiples we're looking at now, if it's not 2 times 12, 3 times 8, which would make this an 8. And it would see 3 8s and turn into that, which is not divisible by 8. That doesn't... That's really... This is really interesting. Yeah, so this is not 8. Because if it's 8, it goes like this. 8, 8, 8. We're only allowed to see 3 8s. So then we have to turn. And now this ought to be... We know 21 ought to be divisible by 8. Well, it's not. So that doesn't work. So then we're looking at 4 times 6, where the 6 is going to have to go in there, and we must see 4 of them. Oh, this is getting weird now. So now we go there. It sees 24. 6 doesn't divide into 21, so it can't go there. So it goes there. That's got to be green. This has got to be the end of the 6 that's seen. The 21 has to be green, because otherwise if it's grey it's now bumped into the 35 and it should have the same number as it. So this, well hang on, this has got to get to the edge, doesn't it? This is now green. That's 21 is only expressible as 3 times 7. So this has got to contain 7 again. It's got to be 7. 7. We're going to see 3 7s in an orthogonal direction. This is a beautiful clue. This is a beautiful clue because it's penned in by the 6 that sort of... Look, I can start to build some of this out now. But this clue is penned in It's sort of cul-de-sac. So the 21 it sees is just in one direction, and that's great. It's sort of Harry Styles, isn't it? And that means we can do that. This grey has to get to the edge, so it's got to come out. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. So now 7 doesn't divide into 15, so I'm doing that. The 7 must come down. The 6 now gets finished like that. The 7 must come down here. 7 is doing this. This is lovely. That's a 6. These are all green. And do I know what that is? I don't think so. But the thing I noticed about the 35 is that it can't touch this 37 even diagonally, can it? Because to do so would cause a checkerboard. So imagine we went there. Now obviously neither of these can be grey now, because otherwise the 37 and the 35 are part of the same region and they should have the same clue. So we do that. This is a checkerboard. This has to get to an edge. This has to get to the edge. However we achieve that. We're getting sprayed with the evil twilight gases, aren't we? And we mustn't do that. So what are we saying? So we're saying that this doesn't go there. So that's green is what we're actually saying. We're saying that has to be green. And this grey has to get to the edge. So it has to go there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's got to get to the edge in at least 12. What did we say it was? We said it was 25 3 3s and a 1. Sorry, 5 5s in other words. 3 3s and a 1 is 9. So it has to be divided into more squares than that. So maybe we're going, if we reduce, if we don't have 5 5s and we have 4 4s, yeah, you get more efficient, don't you? So that you can extend this region. So if you go 4 4s, a 1, 4 4s and a 1, how much have I done now? 4 4s is 16, 32, plus 2 1s is 34. I've only got one more 1 to play with. Okay, let's try 3 3s and a 1. 3 3s and a 1. So I've done 20. Yeah, that'll get me there. 3 3s, 1. 3 3s, 1. 3 3s. The point is you can easily get to the edge still, which is what I was a bit nervous about. But you can. You just reduce the squares that you put in. You reduce the size of the Fillomino, so you're effectively reducing the size of the squares that we're using to add up to the 35. Now, this, interestingly, by exactly the same logic as this now cannot be grey, because if it was grey, it would be connected diagonally to the 35 region, creating a checkerboard. So this is green. Now this 15, this is really interesting. Once you get your head around the puzzle, it's not so bad. But 15 is only expressible mathematically as 3 times 5, isn't it? And that means that we have to write 5 into the square. And it's got to see 3 of them. Oh, but hang on. Hang on, this has still got to be kept apart from the 37. It's got to get to the edge. We must not stop this going until it gets to the edge. The 5 must now go down. That square is green. Otherwise, again, we'd create a checkerboard. So this has got to carry on going down. This has got to carry on going down. That's as far as the 15 is allowed to see. So that gets parcelled off. The 7 isn't... Well, the 7 isn't quite finished, but the 7 is going to go down here because we've only got 5 cells of the 7 so far. So that this 5 now has to turn. So that's a green cell. So this is a grey cell. That can't be grey, or we've got a checkerboard again. So that's got to be green. We still haven't got this to the edge. Oh, there's a bit of an explosion of noise outside. Sorry about that. Therefore, this square is there. This is here. What does that mean? 25. Ah, the 25's got to be grey. 25 is only... If it's a green clue, it's got to be a multiple, so it's 5 times 5 is the only way of expressing it. But it can't be 5 because it's connected to a different 5 region here. So it must be grey and it must be expressible as the sum of squares. But when I say the sum of squares, not 5 times 5. So it's going to be... Well, actually, the 25 region now can't bump into... It can't overlap with this region. Sorry, so what is this then? If it's 4 times 4, that would be 16, and then 3 times 3 would work. 4 times 4, yeah, so it's like a 3, 4, 5 triangle, isn't it? So that's 7 cells. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, no, that's not okay. Well, it is okay, but... Oh, this is gorgeous. Oh, agent, that is beautiful. Right. I have just deduced that the least number of cells I can use to make the 25 clue is if I use 4 times 4 and 3 times 3 to make my 25. If I reduce the number of if I reduce the... Let's say I didn't use 4 times 4. I used 3 times 3 twice. Say 3 times 3, 3 times 3, I'm on 18. So then I could add 2 times 2 as well. Then I'm on 22. And then I'd have to have 3 ones as well. And you can see that to do that, I've used up many more cells than I have available. I have only got... Well, and the thing I've realised is I haven't got that many cells. That's 8 cells, but if I was to use all 8 of those, the 7 here couldn't complete. This 7 needs to take one of these squares. So once it takes one of these squares, I've actually, well, let's say it took that one, I've only got exactly 7 cells left, because I cannot bump the 25 into this clue. It can't overlap with it, or it would have the same count. So I think this 7 has to go here to allow me access to exactly 7 cells of grey here. Right, there's many things I'm now noticing which are really interesting. No jokes about me at parties, thank you very much. Right, that 5 has to extend is the first thing I'm going to say. Now the second thing is that this has to be green. The third thing is that how does this 3, 4 get disambiguated? How do we know the order of it? And the reason we're going to know the order of it, the only thing that will disambiguate the order from being 3 3s here and 4 4s here, or 3 3s here and 4 4s here, is the nature of this square. Now, how do we make 8 work? What is 8? How can we express it as a multiple? We can't use 1 times 8, because if I put 8 into this square, then it's a region of size 8. It will go that way, and that would be seen, and it should be a 16. So it's not 1 times 8. 2 times 4 is the only multiple that works. And we know that we put the 4 in the cell, therefore, because if we put the 2 in the cell, we're meant to see 4 2s. And that's connecting regions. Well, it's making our region of size 2 a size 4 region, which is nonsense. So this is 4, this is 4, but the more important thing about that is that this is now 3 because it can't be 4 in the grey. Otherwise we'd be connecting 2 4 regions together. So we do that, this, that, this is, well, those are the 2 cells seen that add up to 8, so we can immediately hypothecate this off. That goes up there, is green. This 35 region is getting bigger and bigger. It's still got to grow. It's still got to get to the edge. That means that's a 4 by dint of adding, well, having 4 cells in my size 4 region. This can't be grey. it's so silly and so sort of clever, because now this can't be grey, or we've got a checkerboard again. So that's got to be green. Yeah, this is all going to, it's going to force itself round, isn't it? Because this can't be grey, or we've got a checkerboard here. So that's green. That's grey to get it to the edge. This 24 clue is only achievable by the barest of margins. Oh no, actually I'm wrong. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Could this be? I was going to say it had to be 3 times 8. But could it be 2 times 12? No, it can't be. It can't be, but it's complicated. If it was 2 times 12, these would have to be the 2 cells seen. And the reason for that is if it only saw those 2, it's a size 12 region, don't forget. And to get out, it would take this square and it would see 3 cells in the same region. So to be 2 times 12, it would have to be those 2. And then it would have to go up, wouldn't it? Like this. And it would have to... It can't pen this in too quickly, because this needs to get to the edge. So it would start going there, and then the 12 region would bump into a 9, and this cell would contain a 12. That obviously is wrong. 12 does not divide into 9. So I think this is going to have to be, it can now only see a maximum of 3 cells. And given it's not 2 times 12 won't work, it's going to be 3 times 8. These are all going to be 8. So this is 8. Oh, I hope we don't bump into it. We might bump into it again, in which case I've made a mistake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, we don't. We just don't do it. Right, this is fine, I think. So this has to continue. This 8 is not complete, even if it took those squares, so it goes up again. This has to continue. It goes up again. It's still not completable. Now it can't bump into the 9. The 9 actually... Oh, there's all sorts going on. This has to be green to keep the 37 and the 35 apart. That's got to grow, because this has got to be... Well, this is at least 6 times 6 plus 1, which is 7 cells. This is at least 7 cells. And this has got to get to the edge. This is still not at the edge, so it grows. That's got to be green. That's got to grow. That's got to be green, or we get a checkerboard. This has got to be green now, otherwise it bumps into the 35. This 8 is finished, only if we do that. And that gets us to exactly the right count. So we're in this territory. Oh, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsie. Slip of the mouse and lost my army. We can't have a checkerboard there, so that square's got to be green. This grey has to get to the edge somehow. This grey has to get to the edge somehow. This 9 must be 3 times 3, given it's green. So that's got to be exactly like that. There's nothing else possible. This is going up. This is going up. This grey still hasn't got to the edge. So it's got to go up again. That's got to be kept apart from this one. This one must now be green, because it can't bump into the 37. That's a 4 clue in green, so it's double 2, isn't it? We don't know which way it goes. What about the 15 clue? Do we know what that's doing? That's got to be 3 times 5. So these are all 5, and then that region finishes. And therefore, this... Oh, I see. It's fine, actually. This then has to take both of those squares. It's the only way it can go. So that's how the this 5 cell region finishes. The 2 could go here or here. We don't know what that one does. But this grey has to get out again, so it goes up again. This has to get out again, so it goes up again, which makes this green. Now the 37 has now bumped into orthogonally the 32, of which it must not be the same colour. So that's green. Don't make a checkerboard. That's green. There's only one way that the 37 can get to the edge now, and that's like that. It's solving like a charm, isn't it? That's a 2 to complete this region. That settles that off. 32 is 2 times 60. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, it's not that. I wondered if that was 16able, but it's not. So if it's not 2 times 16, it's 4 times 8. And that's just, oh, I see, that's just going to work beautifully. Because that means this is 8. We take the higher number. We've put 4 in, so it sees all 4. That's therefore green. And this 35 has taken the most obscure route round the grid, but can still get to the edge. So this 8 is finished like that. Let's finish that. Do this. We've done the shading. Just have to fill the numbers in. That is a 1. Oh, that's beautiful. Because that being a 1 fixes that this can't be a 1. So that must be a 2, and that must be a 1. And that's all finished. This is... Oh, yes, we said that this was going to have to be a 6 and a 1, didn't we? Oh, and this 1 does it. That's so beautiful again. There is no other way of keeping this down to 7 cells. The moment we go to 5 times 5 for 25, I don't even know how we'd need another 12. 3 times 3 plus 3 ones. We're using up much more real estate than 7 cells, aren't we? So, but now this 1 is telling us that the 1s and the 6s that go in here, we're going to have to put the 6s at the top and the 1 at the bottom. And therefore this is forced. And now, well, now we've basically finished, haven't we? We've got to put... We can't put 6 in here. This is a 6 region, but we can't put 6 in it because of that. Can't start with a 2. So this is divided up 2 and 4, I would have thought. And then this has to be carved up into a lot of different numbers. How long is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 cells to make 35. So the average digit is very low. So if you fill it, maybe a different way of doing this is, what's the most number of cells you could make 35 up with if you're only adding squares? So if we only use 2s and 1s, I don't know if that's going to work though. I sort of feel that should be, oh, that would be multiples of 5. Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's it, isn't it? Oh, it's a bit strange. Yeah. So if you put 2s and 1s in, so you're taking up a 3-cell slice to use 2s and 1s, because you're going to have 2 2s and a 1, but they could be 1 2 or 2 1. But you use up a 3-cell slice, and that costs you 5 of digits to do that. To put 2 2s and a 1 here, 5 of digits. Now, therefore, you can't go beyond 35, so you could do that 7 times. But to do that, you're using 3 cells, and 3 times 7 is 21, which is the total space available. So we are filling this space with 2s and 1s. But we have to do that. How do we know which way round it goes? So it's going to be this somehow. This is not actually, it's not totally straightforward, is it? So what we've got, within each 3-cell the middle cell of each 3-cell segment, we can sort of think of this as 3-cell segments like this. And we know that each time the middle cell is always 2. Yeah, you see, that's going to be very interesting for this region. Because we don't now know, if this was 1, then you'd always have 1 in these positions. But if this is 1, you always have 1 in the sort of the other extreme positions. But 1... I can't put 2 in here. This is breathtaking, actually. Okay, now I start to see. This is very, very clever. Right. Yeah, so what's happened here? We've got a 6-cell region to fill. Now, let's just think about the various ways. I think this is going to have to be 1-5, but let me explain why. It's a 6-cell region to fill with Fillomino regions. Now, we might have thought, oh, we'll just fill it with 6 6s. That doesn't work because this 6 is going to be connecting to another region of size 6. 2-3 regions won't work because the 2-3 regions will connect. So we're only left now. 1-1-1-4-1. Oh, okay. I hadn't thought of this when I was about to speak, but I have now thought of it. What about 1-4-1-4-1? That doesn't work because you'd see this. These 2 1s would connect. I'm just going to be careful here in case there's some option I'm not seeing. Okay, so the one that I thought was going to apply is 2s and 4s, because I could see how that would be disambiguated. Because the 2 here stops this being a 2 region and would allow, in theory, us to put the 2... Oh, I'm trying to put 2 in there. 2s and 4s. And everything looks like it works, except it doesn't here. Because this 2 region either goes there or there, and whichever way it goes, it prevents this from being a 2 region. So this cannot be 2s and 4s. You can't put a 2 into any of those squares, which leaves us only with 1 and 5, and this 1 is stopping this being a 1. So you've got to go 1 here and 5 here. And what is so beautiful about that is that that 1 now disambiguates the pattern in this region. Good grief! So this has to be the 1. That's the 1. The 1s always go to sort of the far side, if you like. And the 2s go here, 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 here. And that is the solution to the puzzle. What a finish that is. Oh, it really doesn't like that. That doesn't look right. Oh, puzzle doesn't include solution. How do I make it not show that? That was horrible. Okay. There we go. That is... It's brilliant, isn't it? It's just quite brilliant. That finish is so sick, Agent. Goodness me. How did you come up with that? I can sort of see. I mean, it must have been an amusing thought to create a massive region of little squares. So this was... But then to work out that you could disambiguate it in this way. I dimly see how you've done it, but it's very, very beautiful. It's very beautiful. This is a stunning puzzle. Okay, fair play. All right. So I was nervous about this. I don't know. I'd be interested. Let me know in the comments. My feeling is, yeah, I mean, the payoff here is brilliant. The payoff for understanding what is a fairly complicated rule set, because you have to understand Fillomino, which is one rule set, Cave, which is another rule set. You have to understand both of those, and then you're taking two standard rule sets, building them into the same puzzle, and then putting a twist on it, which was the thing I couldn't understand, or at least I was very nervous about when I opened the puzzle initially. It's a lot to ask of especially a new viewer, and I that's what makes me a bit nervous. I think for a new viewer, you can ask them to understand Cave or Fillomino, or even maybe Cave Fillomino. But can you also make them experience your Twilight gases? Now that is a question. Sorry. Here it's absolutely acceptable to me, because the finale is worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But let me know. We always want to be guided by you guys. What do you want to watch? What do you want to watch on a Saturday night? Probably not me. You're still here now. Thank you so much. Anyway, let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.